I make mistakes all the time. Okay, so you can see my screen, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
So you can
awesome.
blow it up a little bit bigger.
Yeah, I'm just going to start it off.
Perfect.
There you go.
Awesome.
Okay.
Well, let's
All
kind of
right.
begin, and as more people come, Alex, just let them in and welcome everyone.
Well, Carmelo, you might need to let them in because I'm controlling the screen. I don't see
okay.
them.
I'll add them in.
Okay.
I'll let him in.
Cool. Give Clark the administrative control there. So, all right. So this presentation is called "New to Canada." As Carmelo, mentioned, this is definitely a presentation where everybody can learn something about becoming a homeowner. But some of the topics that we talk about are also tailored to new Canadians.
Correct.
So a little bit about myself. First, that's me. My name is Alex Zhvanetskiy. I'm a realtor of Remax Condos Plus. I'm in downtown Toronto. Before I got into real estate, I was working in the condominium industry. I spent about 10 years in that industry working as an insider. During that time, I've probably been to virtually every condo building in downtown Toronto for sure, and many in the GTA. Either to quote on services, meet with property management, or the company that I was the vice president of was providing services there as well. I've been a real estate investor since 2013. I'm a member of ACMO, which is the Association of Condominium Managers of Ontario. I've been a member of that organization for 10 years now. And in 2022, I was in the top 1% in the Greater Toronto area for condo sales from over 70,000 Toronto Regional Real Estate Board realtors. And my Instagram handle is there below. It's alexzed.realtor if anybody wants to connect and follow me on Instagram. There's a lot of topics that I cover, and most of them are condo related and tailored around my experience in the condo industry. And it's all about providing value and building relationships over transactions. I've basically built my business around the relationship and always putting the client's needs first. And because when you do that, the business will just look after itself. Carmelo?
Hi. So I'm Carmelo Buttice. I'm a mortgage agent at yourmortgageyourway.ca. I've been doing mortgages for over 20 years now. And I've been, I started my career as a mortgage underwriter. Mortgage underwriters are the people that review your application and make the decision whether to be approved or declined. So when I started my career, that was the very first thing I learned, was how the banks think, what the banks look for when it comes to approving a mortgage. The best decision I've ever made starting this career. Now I'm independent. I don't work for any bank. I work for you. I have access to multiple lenders. The big banks, the credit unions, the monoline lenders, the big ones, the small ones. Last year we used 59 different lenders. And a little bit about myself. I like to do charity work. Just last year, I climbed up to Mount Everest Base Camp, raised $12,000 for Make-A-Wish Canada. Always like to give back in the community because it's not about what, everything I do for myself is great, but always like to give back to those in need.
Good stuff. Just to kind of set the tone about this presentation. So over the next at least 2 years, Canada is going to be expecting an influx of immigrants coming to Canada, and most of them are going to be settling in the Greater Toronto area. We're going to have almost 500,000 new immigrants arriving each year, and a lot of them are already high-skilled workers that are coming over. I mean, I've seen this myself as far as the kind of clients that I've been working with. People are being transferred to offices that are in Toronto. They're working for the same employer. Companies like Deloitte are bringing people in from overseas to work in the Toronto office. So this is going to be putting even more pressure on our real estate market. And real estate is a hard, tangible asset. These charts just show how real estate has appreciated over the last 23 years. I mean, you can see that, there have been some bumps in the road, most recently in, this year or in 2016, 2017, and into 2018. But overall, real estate prices have continued to go up. So, it's a hard, tangible asset, and there's going to be continued demand and strain on it. I mean, the Ford government is going to also be, trying to inject additional resources into this industry to allow new housing to be built. But I don't think that that's going to be able to keep up. So there's going to be continuous new strain, and the condo industry is where most people, at least in the Greater Toronto area, find themselves, entering real estate. So there's a few parts to this presentation, Carmelo.
Yeah, so when it comes to working and buying mortgages, those new to Canada, you got to work with trusted professionals, right? You got to know a good realtor. I got Alex, good lawyer. Alex and I knows a lot of great lawyers to work with. You need help when it comes to accountants to do your taxes if you're moving to Canada, to help you with your taxes and understand the taxes, and a good mortgage agent to shop around, give you the right mortgage that suits your needs, which is myself.
Right. And one thing about a lawyer is that you need to make sure that when you're using a lawyer, they have to specialize and be accredited, certified, and insured to practice in real estate. You can't just use, just a lawyer that maybe does, I don't know, personal injury or criminal for real estate. They don't have the same level of access, and they're also not insured if something goes sideways.
Correct.
A little bit about my duties as a real estate agent. First of all, I have a fiduciary duty to anybody who I have a client relationship with. And what fiduciary duty means is that I am obligated to put your needs as a client before my own needs. Whether even if that's going to set me back and it's not going to make the deal go through, I have to be forthcoming with you. I have to mitigate. Do my best to mitigate your risk, to find research, to find information for you. I have to be, honest with everybody that I come into contact with, whether that's another real estate agent or whether that's, a client on the other side. One of the reasons to use a real estate agent is you get a high value professional who has experience in the industry to guide you and provide advice to you. But that's kind of, what we do. We provide you that guidance, but you're very much in control of the situation and in control of the transaction. When you work with a real estate agent, you also get access into on and off market listings. Just to put it into perspective, just today, I finished working with a client where we were able to get this client an off market townhome at a great price because, for various reasons, the seller did not want to list it on the MLS. They wanted to sell it privately. In this case, it was a privacy issue. They didn't want their neighbors to and friends to know that they're selling their house. But because, of having access to deals like this, I'm also a member of multiple assignment groups. I get information about assignments, off-market properties, investment properties, like, multifamily properties as well. So when you work with a realtor, you get access to a lot more than just what you see on the MLS, because, frankly, the same data you see on MLS, you can see on websites like Realtor.ca, or you can go on House Sigma. You're not going to have as much details. But when you're working with a realtor, you also understand or get a better understanding of the whole marketplace, because in many cases it's not about even what the property is being advertised for. It's about what is the property actually being sold for. You get one single point of contact that works with you throughout the whole transaction, even after we get the deal accepted. I pretty much handle everything on your behalf, all the back and forth communications, scheduling, additional visits to the property, making sure that your, appraiser that works with your lender can get in to appraise the property. That's all part of my duties. It's not just about putting a contract together. And it's also about protecting your best interests and mitigating your risk. In any client relationships, I start off with just a one-on-one meeting, maybe, at our office or over a coffee, to just kind of discuss, what is it that you're looking for? What is your budget? What is your, what is your wants versus what is your needs? And how do we best find the product that, meets most of those needs as wants as possible? And, I'm also licensed by RECO, which is the Real Estate Council of Ontario. And through RECO, I am required to provide that level of client service and that fiduciary duty to my clients.
Well said.
Thank you.
Now, when it comes to qualifying for a mortgage, you're new to Canada. There's a few differences versus those that are kind of like born and raised here. A lot of the requirements to get a mortgage are the same, regardless whether you're born here or you're new to Canada. The key things that is if you're moving to Canada, you new to Canada, it's important to have your permanent resident status. If you're non-resident, right now they put a ban for non-residents to purchasing property in Canada for 2 years, so you have to have your PR card. The second thing you'll need is you will need a job. You will need a job, income to and the means of making payments on that mortgage. When it comes to credit, either you're to Canada or you're from Canada, you have to have established credit to show that you could afford making the payments. When you're new to Canada, kind of give you a little breakdown because you're gonna have you won't have the same history as say Alex or myself, who've been or who are here, been here a long time. So, and the last thing you need is whether you're new to Canada or not, you need to have money for both down payment and closing costs.
Mm-hmm. Is there a simple way to kind of, what goes into closing costs and how do you, is there any calculation around that?
Closing costs, again, the banks like to see just 1.5% of the purchase price.
Okay.
So if you're buying for 600,000, 1.5% is $9,000.
Okay. And that's for like land transfer, legal fees, utility.
Again, that's the closing costs are typically the land transfer tax of the first time buyer. You get the credits right away, which is a big plus. But still, the biggest thing is it's still legal fees. The banks want to know you have money for moving costs, and you still have a little bit left over to turn on the utilities.
Makes sense. Awesome.
The key thing is, again, if you're new to Canada, you got to have your status. It's important to have your PR card completed and the PR card received because the banks may ask for that, and your social insurance number changed. If your social insurance number still begins with the number 9, that means you're here on a visa, work visa. So you have to, update your social insurance number as well. Just this year, our government introduced you're not allowed to, they're kind of banning any foreign buyers for buying real estate in Canada because there have been so many foreign buyers in the last few years buying real estate. And they did this in hopes that, the domestic, we already have enough demand here in Canada. So the domestic demand could kind of pick up the supply that's there.
Right. And it's a prohibition on purchasing residential properties for non-Canadians Act. That's what it's actually called, and it's basically a prohibition for 2 years that started on January 1st, 2023.
Yes.
There are some exemptions to this, such as foreign corporations, but that's a topic for a different type of presentation.
Yeah, the exceptions aren't really that clear. There are some exceptions. It's so new. A lot of the banks are kind of more of like, no, we just kind of want to stick with. They don't want to really fight CMHC. CMHC is the government, Crown Corporation is really the government. So it's pretty. I like to keep it simple.
Right. Employment.
The next thing is now, if you're new to Canada, again, it's a little bit more relaxed when it comes to when they look at your employment. One thing they want to know is are you employed? That's the first thing. Then afterwards, have you been employed for at least 3 months? So if you've been employed full-time permanent, part-time permanent, you could apply for a mortgage. Typically, the banks want to see like a 2-year employment history. However, if you recently just moved here in the last 5 years, you may not have that same history that, say, I would, that was born and raised here. So, and when it comes to like documentation, it's pretty simple. Letter of employment, it's in the last 30 days, 2 pay stubs, and the banks kind of want to know your previous employment in your previous country, right? Are you doing the same line of work, or were you previously an accountant, overseas, and all of a sudden you came over here and you're a welder? You're in a whole different industry. They kind of want to see that consistency, right? So you don't really have to show much or any documentation about your previous employment. It's just they want to understand the history, that you have the experience doing what you're doing. So it's a lot easier when you're new to Canada and the banks look at your employment, which is quite nice.
How about credit?
Credit, again, like say very similar. Like again, credit, again, if you migrated here in the last few years, you may not have 2 credit cards for 2 years old, with limits of $2,000 each or more, right? You're not going to have a 5-10 year history like myself that was born here. So the banks, again, if you're buying within that first year, the banks recognize, okay, you may have that high credit score, and that you're going to have a high credit score because you just started your establishing your credit. So the banks could look at alternatives. They could look at your bank statements for the last 12 months to see that your rent, you made your rent on time, you paid your rent. They could look at and add that with a letter from the landlord saying that you've been a good tenant and you pay your rent on time. They could look at your utility bills. Do you pay your utility bills? Cell phones are on your credit report. So everyone that kind of moves here, first thing they do is get a cell phone with one of the cell phone providers. Make sure you pay that cell phone on time. I do have access to also getting international credit reports. It is another way that the banks could look at when it comes to establishing your credit. If we are going that route, depends where your home country is. It can take longer. I know in the United States, it takes me 48, 72 hours. Europe could take 1 to 2 weeks. So, but it just goes to show that they are a little bit more flexible. When it comes to looking at, your rent payments and your utility bills, they kind of want to know that's established in Canada, right? We can't show them 12 months of your, a cell phone bill, utility bill that you had overseas, right? They want to know that you've been in Canada for the last 12 months. So it's a lot easier, Alex, than, like yourself, myself, right? We've been here for so long, we have to show, or we have to, have a longer history.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I think this slide is about alternative ways that lenders can verify credit, right? That's basically what it is.
Exactly, because again, a lot of people are new to Canada. I spoke with someone today. He only landed here 10 months ago. He doesn't have 2 years worth of credit history because he got his PR card while he applied overseas, got it, landed here, found an apartment, has a full-time salary job. It's obvious he's not gonna have 5 years worth of credit. So they're gonna look, what the banks do and what the mortgage insurers do. They look, okay, well, what's the substitution? And there's it's a lot more flexible versus yourself, Alex. Like, you're here. If you haven't had credit in the last 5 years, they're gonna question it.
I know. We spoke about somebody today that hasn't had credit in over 30 years.
Exactly. So this is exactly it. So they make it a little bit more lenient.
Yeah, exactly. Awesome. Well, it's good that they're, kind of, working and understanding, different situations, and it's not like so, black and white, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So
the program's designed. So when it comes to down payment, oh, there we go. It's important to have your down payment ready, right? To buy property, you need a minimum 5% down payment, and that should be from your own savings. If you put more than 5% down, it actually looks a little more favorable to you, whether you're new to Canada or even from Canada, in Canada. Because you have more skin in the game. You're putting more of your own money into the property. As long as 5% of the down payment is your own savings, you could get a gift for the remaining 5, 10, 15, any amount larger that you want, as long as that gift is from an immediate family. And it's actually encouraged at times the larger down payment you make, the smaller the mortgage insurance premiums are. If anybody has money coming from overseas, it's very important to have a clear paper trail of the source of that money. Because the banks are going to look at, do you have the money in your bank account today? They see a deposit come through at $20,000 and a wire transfer. They're like, it clearly came from overseas. They want to see that paper trail. So you need to show a copy of that wire transfer, Alex. We'll also need to show that bank account from overseas.
Yep.
And I like to look at it as the banks. They're going to be looking at the banks do all this piece of money laundering, right? So real estate is the number one place where money gets laundered. It's very easy to buy a big ticket item, and it's very easy to launder large amounts of money. So that's where anytime there's transfers in a bank account, the best thing is to not really move that much money around. That's one of the key things.
Yep. Awesome. So that's our new to Canada presentation. Make sure that if you have any, if you are following us on socials at Carmelo Mortgage and at alexz.realtor on Instagram. I think Carmelo also posted our Calendly link.
I'm doing that right now. Hold on.
Yeah.
There we go.
Awesome. So anybody that wants to, book a call with us, or maybe there's a topic that we didn't touch on, or go deep into, or you just have a question, we're always available. Like that's the the purpose of the presentations that we do here is we want to continue to add value and share our information. And it's great that we have a resource like Meetup and web conferences to do things like this. We don't have to actually really go anywhere. You can just consume at the comfort of your home. So if anybody has any questions, you can either unmute yourself or you can just post them in the chat. Clark?
How do you post in the chat?
Well, you could just ask the question if you like.
Okay, if you have a down payment of $500,000, what sort of a house can you buy? Can you buy a $2 million house?
If you have the income to support a $1.5 million mortgage, you can.
Oh, that might be questionable. You buy a $1 million house and then take out a reverse mortgage.
I do reverse mortgages. Reverse mortgages are available if you're over 55 years old. And with reverse mortgages, you can use the reverse mortgage to purchase a property.
Yeah. Oh, but don't you have to own the property before you can get a reverse mortgage?
No, you could. If you're buying a property, you can get a reverse mortgage to help close that purchase of that property.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah. The key thing is got to be your principal residence.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
So I do reverse mortgages. Maybe that, I don't know if Alex, Clark, would you be interested in more information about something like that?
Well, I'm familiar with reverse mortgages, and I haven't come into the money yet. It's still going through the system.
Okay, well, if you like,
I've always wanted to own a house.
If you can see, there's in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, there's kind of like a little chat group. There'd be some numbers on there. People post some comments. If you want to book a 15-minute consultation, I can kind of go over with you a few things when it comes to reverse mortgages and answer some specific questions you may have.
I'd probably be more interested after I got the money.
That's fair.
Oops, stop sharing. Sorry, I shared it by accident. But yeah, the chat is in the bottom left corner. Look at that box beside where it says 5 people. But that's a great question about reverse mortgage. And I didn't know that you can actually get a reverse mortgage to close on a property. That's
yeah, I didn't know that neither.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Maybe I know, Carmelo, that's maybe something for our next phone call, because I want to learn more about that as well.
Sure. Maybe maybe we could do a presentation for it.
Maybe. I mean, that's interesting. That's very interesting. Yeah.
And most people do get reverse mortgages for when they already own the home. They're consolidating, pay off their old, or they just want to take some money out because of new expenses.
Mm-hmm.
That's part, but I know when I talked to the two banks that do the reverse mortgages, they did say, yeah, you can do it for purchasing. So we have a question
from VA. If you want to either post in the chat or you can unmute yourself.
Yeah, hi guys. Just quick check. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. I don't know the questions for Alex or Carmelo. The situation is this: I'm a newcomer, been in Canada for the past 4 years. Gainfully employed, so have I'd like to think a good to great credit history, so no issues on my end. My wife recently joined me last year, and she's been employed only since December. So I'm wondering, her credit history isn't let's say as strong as mine necessarily, given the limited period of her financial situation. So if we would apply for a mortgage, would it be scrutinized looking at our joint credit history or me as a primary applicant?
Who's the main income earner?
Well, we're both earning, but if you were looking at a ratio, mine would be higher.
Okay, so they're gonna put a little bit more weighing on your qualifications. For your wife, again, she's only been here for 3 months.
Yeah.
So again, they may ask for, again, only for the time that's available, right? For different forms of alternative verifying credit with regards to utility bills that she pays, cell phone bills. We could request an international credit report. Does she have credit from history from back in her home country? There's other things that could be looked at when it comes to, but the banks would most likely, and the insurers would look at you primarily when it comes, and your wife is supporting. They would, I know a lot of them would kind of understand the scenario where she's only been here for 3 months, and if she's been here for 3 months full time, that's enough employment history when it comes to for the employment.
Okay, so she doesn't necessarily have to have a taxes file. Whatever pay stubs that she has for the past few months should be suffice to show employment.
Oh yeah, so typically when you, to apply letter of employment and 2 pay stubs.
Got it.
There's no tax return. She's a salary employee. It sounds like.
Yes.
So,
I was wondering how they would determine household income without taxes being filed. So they just extrapolate whatever the past 2 months of the pay stub has been.
yeah, if you want to book a separate 15-minute consultation, I don't mind going in a little bit more details. I don't know if you want to share all your personal information with everyone, but feel free to book a 15-minute consultation. But sounds like even with your wife, there are options for you.
Got it. All right. Thanks, Carmelo.
You're welcome.
Awesome. Great question. And VA, I did post in the chat a link for our Calendly. If you want to book a 15-minute call. And then also I just did, I shared our social medias as well if anybody wants to connect or follow. Awesome. I see you got that. Amazing. Thank you for verifying. Who else has questions about this topic, or maybe other topics as well, as long as they're related to real estate and first time home buyers or first time condo buyers? Okay. All right.
So thanks, I guess, everyone for joining.
Mark, did you have a question there? I see you unmuted yourself.
I was going to ask, as a newcomer, are there advantages to maybe buying a condo in the suburbs rather than downtown?
Is that
like in Mississauga or somewhere?
Okay. Should I answer that, or do you want to?
That's for you to answer, Alex. That's like a specific real estate location.
Well, you know what? Like Mississauga is, as much as it's the suburbs, there's a lot of condos, especially around Square One and throughout Peel region in general, right? Like I know that one of the things that we talked about in past presentations is that if you're going to be looking to buy a condo, you want to make sure it's in a marketable area, or it's a marketable property. So, you wouldn't a lender would maybe look, and correct me if I'm wrong, Carmelo here, but I think as long as you're buying in the Greater Toronto area, and it's in an area that has, transit and things around it, that'll be probably good. If you were to go buy, I don't know, a condo in maybe Timmins, a lender might look a little bit different at that. But I think that, anywhere in, Mississauga or Toronto, I think it'll be pretty similar.
I think Timmins has a population of 50,000 or more. So it's really, if you're buying in Timmins, it's really, you're not buying you're buying in the Timmins. Timmins doesn't really have a greater Timmins area. You're buying in the city, or you're buying outside. Unlike Toronto, you're buying outside of Toronto. You're buying, if you're I'm in Mississauga, or if you even go to Milton, you buy, 5 kilometers outside of Milton, you're still in a major area.
Okay. What if you were to buy a condo somewhere like Blue Mountain?
Well, is it on the resort? If it's on the resort, then it's resort and recreational property. So if it's offside the resort in Collingwood, kind of it's in, Collingwood is considered urban. Because again, the mortgage insurers are lending across Canada. There's only so many big dense cities, but there's a lot of good sized towns that are good, has a good population size, good economics when it comes to jobs and employment. So they don't kind of just tailor for only Toronto, Vancouver. Marketable property, yes. When you're buying in the Greater Toronto area, even if you go to a little bit outskirts, it wasn't long, Clark, we were talking about how Mississauga used to be just farmland, and it's now when you go even further out, Tottenham and Aurora, that's all urban.
St. Catharines, even there's condos going up there as well.
Yeah. So
have you done any mortgages out in St. Catharines or Niagara Falls area for condos?
I don't do them every day. I have done them. I know last year I did 2 properties in BC.
In BC?
Yep, I could do British Columbia.
Oh, sorry, BC. Okay.
BC. I
said BC.
No. BC.
I'm an American.
So again, I'm not tied, like doing mortgages. I'm not tied to any geographical location, but the urban, it's really marketable properties, or they're in urban areas. It's kind of it is the difference when you're buying, like you get a pre-approved for say 500,000, you're buying in Toronto versus buying a large, like just maybe outside of Timmins. Is there outside of Timmins area, when you live there, it's you go out 10, 15 kilometers. It's not the same when you leave downtown core, you're out 15 kilometers, you're in Etobicoke.
That's right. No, my question was more along the lines, if the person was working in Toronto, rather than buy a condo in Toronto, maybe look at Milton or somewhere further out where they could get a better price and be easier to obtain the mortgage.
Yeah. Or a larger property that's maybe not even a condo.
Yeah. Or a larger property.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, do you do any real estate in like Florida?
Who, me?
No.
I can do things in the Dominican Republic.
Oh.
If somebody wants to buy a condo in Punta Cana, I can help them with that.
Oh, you got one for sale?
I have access to pre-construction, and then also in Alberta as well. But no, I'm not. I don't. Yeah, I'm not licensed in and I don't have access to any inventory out there in Florida. But I'm sure that there are. I've seen people advertising things in the U.S. in my brokerage, so it's not like really as much about being licensed out there, but it's about having access to it, especially if it's in pre-construction. But if it's a resale property, then it's the best thing is to connect somebody with a realtor that's in that area, because I don't know anything about Florida. So yeah.
Well, I just remember 20 years ago, they were doing a lot of promotions in Florida, Canadian real estate agents.
I think, was it timeshares?
Yeah. Well, no, it was purchase.
Not
buying lots of lands and building condos, but they were selling to Canadians as a winter retreat.
Yeah. Well, I know a lot of Canadians go down there, right? So yeah. But I know that when there was like a real estate kind of bubble burst in the US, I don't know how that impacted those properties down there. Like, I'm not sure about that as well. Like, I don't. Yeah, honestly, I don't know too much about that part. But I do see advertisements quite cheap. Sorry?
It tends to be a little bit different.
Yeah.
Snowbirds, they don't really concerned about up and down rates that much.
Yeah, pretty much.
They buy, they own, and they keep.
Yeah, makes sense. Clark, any other questions that we can answer for you about anything at this point?
No, I just thought, I'll see what he says about houses, only because you mentioned houses in it. Because last week or 2 weeks ago or whatever, you had the other one, you mentioned all condos. I thought, okay, that's not really for me. Though, mind you, one of my questions lately has come up is it wise for someone to buy a house being elderly and not a condo? Maybe they're wiser to start thinking about a condo.
I mean, people go through different stages, right? Like, and sometimes, usually there's a point where they start to kind of, downsize, or they want to have something that has less maintenance or less stairs, right?
Yeah.
So that kind of depends, on I guess everybody's circumstance. And some go to things like bungalows where you don't there aren't any stairs and it's just one level, right? So I guess it really depends on what's the right thing for the person, right? I don't know. Yeah. I don't know about. I think that's case by case basis.
That's what I noticed. It's based on the individual.
Yeah.
But I don't mind a fixer upper. It'll give me something to do. I don't want to just sit around and watch TV. Forget it.
You're a handy guy?
Oh, yeah.
Huh. Good stuff.
I've been in the heating air conditioning business for 40 years. So,
okay.
So that's nice. When the time comes, Clark, if you need help with reverse mortgage questions, feel free to reach out.
Yeah.
Okay.
I haven't really thought about what area even I'm looking for, because I figured the price of a real estate, if it's a year from now, will probably change in different areas. I may end up in, Timbuktu or Timmins.
I don't know. I always use Timmins as my example for somewhere far away, but I don't know, just like the first thing that comes to my mind. So
it is very far.
I guess so. I don't. Yeah, I think so. I think so. I think it's like 8 hours away or something. or
Yeah,
6
people
hours
are
away.
commuting from Barrie now. You know,
Yep.
like,
I know people are
like that-
commuting from Niagara Falls to downtown Toronto for for work.
Yeah.
It's crazy. You spend all day in your car.
Well, yeah. If you're traveling at rush hour, if you can get around rush hour, you're okay.
Yeah.
You know,
Thank you.
I mean, I can get from Mississauga to Hamilton in a half hour
Yeah.
if it's not rush hour.
My dad lives in Penetanguishene,
All right. Okay.
north of Midland, and he commutes. Well, he doesn't have to come to Toronto every day, but he comes like at least 2 times a week or 3
Well,
times
that's
a
a
week.
new way it looks like it's going to go.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
not going to be in the office 5 days. You'll maybe in 2 days.
Yeah.
In
Exactly.
which case, you don't mind traveling a little bit further for 2 days.
100% to get more property and a big backyard. Yeah. Makes a lot of sense. Awesome.
Or to get waterfront.
Or to get waterfront. Exactly.
Yeah.
So, Clark, we do do different presentations. So, just keep an eye out. We try to kind of mix it up and add different types of presentations as well. So, when you see something that's of interest, it's great to have you join and share your feedback as well. It's much appreciated.
Yeah. I'll keep an eye open for your presentations.
Awesome.
It's
Thank you, Clark.
good just chatting with you. Since now everybody's gone.
Yeah, pretty much. So you get
You
one.
scared, I scared them all off.
No.
Yeah.
I said it was going to be intimate at the beginning, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
So thanks for joining, Clark. It's been a pleasure to meet you.
Okay.
Have
I should clarify, I've been in houses all my life, but they've always been in my wife's name. I've never owned a house.
Yeah.
But now she's passed away and well, maybe I'll have to buy a house.
You
know.
can.
And we were in a bungalow in Mississauga and Clarkson. See,
Okay.
that Trescott, South Down area, they're all bungalows in there.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a nice area. That's a nice area for
Right by
sure.
the lake.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Dog loved it.
Yeah. No, I know. Yeah, I've done some work out there too. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm gonna stop the recording here, and I'm gonna.
We shouldn't be recording. Oh, well, it's up to you.
Yeah, you told us all your confidential.
Oh, I don't care about that. If I age, what are they going to do with it?